Right now, our guest on Nightside is Mercedes McCambridge, who has done one of just about everything in the performing arts, I think, from having looked back in the background. And I wanted to talk a little bit, if we could, about radio, Ms. McCambridge, because you were in so many of the serials and the adventure shows and so many dramas for quite a while. I found out that you were the lead in Big Sister for a while. You were in Abby's Irish Rose. You were in so many of the suspense shows and the other things. What was it like in those days to be doing so many parts on network radio?
That was the greatest training in the world for an actor. Someone asked me coming down the hall just now what it was like to be in radio, and was it good training for a young actor because all one did was speak, which is an old wives' tale. The most difficult, the most concentrated form of acting is on radio. And as to quality, I will match the quality of radio with anything that is seen on television, and we will come up far superior.
People always use the phrase the theater of the mind, the business of the imagination. What are your feelings on that?
It's precisely true. It's amazing. Every place I go in the United States, someone will come up to me on the street or come backstage after a play and talk about I Love a Mystery, which was a radio program long years ago, and a very imaginative series of plays that would run maybe 4 to 5 weeks.
It was sort of an adventure serial.
And the one that people seem to remember most is one about giant bats in a cave in South America. And in cities like, as I was telling somebody yesterday, perhaps Indianapolis, a man or a woman will stand in the middle of the street and describe to me these bats, and their arms go way out, and their eyes get funny looks in them, and they make strange noises. Well, those bats were 4 actors standing around in New York City around a microphone talking to each other, and the rest of it was indeed the theater of the mind.
Now, that program was written and produced by a man named Carlton Morse, who had quite a bit to do with dramatic radio at that time. What was it like to work for him?
Carlton was such a pussycat. He also wrote One Man's Family,
which you were in from time to time.
And I think of him with great love, great admiration. So many people in radio. Orson Welles, a man to whom I was married, Fletcher Markle, who began Studio One, the magnificence of Playhouse 90, Lights Out, so many of them, Inner Sanctum, really far superior to the weekly series that you see on television.
For someone who has been in so many of them, can you remember any of them individually, or does it all become a blur?
I can remember things I've done in radio as well as I can remember anything I've done in the theater, I think. I don't remember anything I do in television. I try to wipe that out. I guess you can gather from what I've said that I'm not very much sold on the giant tube. I wish sometimes it had never been thought of. But yes, radio is very meaningful to me. It was my training. It was my school. I began when I was 16 in radio. And I think one is loyal to the way one begins.
If you don't mind a couple of ghosts or possibly giant bats from the past coming back to haunt you, we've pulled a couple of things out of our archives that include you in them, and we'd like to listen to just a couple of excerpts of one and then a little more of another, and maybe you could comment on them.
Right.
And I think you may be surprised at the first one, which begins with a little violence on radio. And let's listen to this, in which you play the part of Sonny.
The Mutual Broadcasting System presents I Love a Mystery. Carlton Morse adventure thriller, Temple of Vampires. 12 midnight, high on the ledge above the floor of the Temple of Vampires, somewhere in the jungles of Central America. Jack and Doc Long are facing one of the strangest, most hair-raising moments in their experience. They're out in the center of the temple, each clinging to separate ropes 50 feet in the air. There is no chance for them to swing to the high ledge where Reggie is guarding the boy Hermie, the girl Sonny, and the captive vampire priestess Angelina. There is only one chance for Jack and Doc, to climb the 50 or 60-foot rope to the ceiling of the temple. While they're attempting this, Reggie, unaware of what has happened to his two comrades, is having difficulties of his own in the doorway of the priest's cell high on the ledge. Sonny was still unconscious, and the vampire priestess pretended sleep. Reggie was sitting on the stone bench in the dark, talking softly to Hermie. Suddenly, he became uneasy, arose to his feet, and tiptoed to the door of the cell. As he did so, a fist struck out of the dark, staggering him, and he clenched with the unseen enemy.
That is good. You mean one of us is going over? And one is you. Didn't do it, did you? Now I'm on top for a change. You will die on floor far below, crushed like eggshell. Well, I'll believe it when it happens. See, it will happen. Well, try this on your jaw. That's what you get for sticking your chin out. I'll drag you back into the cell. There. Another chicken in the coop.
Reggie?
Huh?
Is that you?
No doubt about it, Hermie. We met the enemy, and he is ours.
I don't want him.
Well, we have him. We're going to keep him, too. He has a nice long cord around his middle to tie him with.
Who is it?
Well, in the dark, it's hard to say. But I think he's our old friend Manuel, even though Jack thought the vampire bats got him. We'll see as soon as I tie him up. Hey, have we got a flashlight?
Jack's got one.
Oh, I know that. You haven't got a piece of paper in your pocket, have you?
I haven't got any pockets. I ain't even got any clothes.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting in the dark. The original loincloth kid.
Are you tying him up?
As a matter of fact, job's nearly finished.
Gee whiz. I wish I could get some clothes before Sonny wakes up.
Why do you wish that, Hermie?
Hey, she's awake.
Hello, Sonny. You back with us?
Apparently. Where are we?
Hey, you better lay still. Reggie's tying up a guy.
Tying up a guy.
That's quite. And the job's complete.
Are we still over on the ledge with the sacred vampires?
Now, don't worry. You're safely across and in one of the monk's cells.
How did I get back?
You fainted. Jack carried you over on his back. Now then, I'll strike a match and have a look at this chappie we just captured.
Well, there's so much I don't know.
Oh, so it is Manuel.
What's that?
That's right. I've just tied up the high priest himself.
That is not true. Who's that?
That's Angelina, the high priestess.
Well, is she here, too?
Very much here. She's been our captive for a couple of hours now.
You have not got Manuel.
You don't think we have?
No, I do not think so.
Well, he'll wake up in a minute and he can tell you himself.
But I don't know anything that's happened since Manuel kidnapped me from the plane. Where are Jack and Doc?
Still over on the other ledge. Jack brought you over and then went back.
But how do we all happen to be here?
Well, after I was knocked out and you were stolen, Jack and Doc locked me in the plane with Hermie and came after you. Well, then Angelina over there came perching around on the plane trying to get at Hermie. Like the ballet bloke I am, I opened the door thinking to capture her and was knocked out again, and Angelina grabbed the boy.
And that's when I lost my clothes.
What do you mean, lost your clothes?
The fellas took my clothes.
Yes, the priests in black robes. They gave him a loincloth.
Yeah, and I'm sure glad it's dark.
Hermie, I think you'd look wonderful in a loincloth.
Well, I wish Doc and Jack would get back. How do you feel?
All right. I'm sitting up.
Jack said you collapsed on the other ledge from being scared stiff.
Oh, please, Red.
You don't like that?
I feel lousy enough about what I did without talking about
Oh,
it.
but see here, can't a person help it if it...
No, a person can help it if he's not a complete washout.
Well, we all have our weaknesses.
Mine's being female.
Yeah, well, you'll feel better in the morning.
I don't know how I'm ever going to face Jack and Doc again after that silly scene I
Well,
had.
you just forget it.
Hey, Reggie.
Hmm?
I've never seen Angelina yet. May I?
If you want to, but it'll have to be by the light of a match.
That'll do.
What you do?
Sonny wants to look at you.
So,
Hello.
I kill you.
Angelina, you're really beautiful.
You are blonde, no?
That's right.
No blonde woman is beautiful.
Oh, is that friendly?
I am more beautiful than you.
Yes, I think you are.
But I have a better temper.
Yes, that's right. You've never bitten Doc yet.
What's that?
Angelina here sunk her teeth into him twice.
Go away.
Why such bitterness, Angelina? What have I ever done to you?
You try to steal Manuel, no?
I tried to steal Manuel. It's the other way around. He stole me.
You keep away from Manuel.
With pleasure.
That's from the series that you couldn't possibly have been prompted any better than you did on your own because we had exactly the...
Vampire Bats.
That's right. There you are.
That's the one that people... And the noise that they seem to have been haunted by in this theater of the mind all these years was the screeching of the bats. And that was done by the sound man in the corner with very heavy sandpaper and large corks. And he would just twirl the corks and they would squeak on this... sandpaper, and that would make the noise that was so terrible.
Now, while we were listening to that, you told me something else that was just amazing, and that is that you played two voices in that.
Oh, very often in radio you'd be the person arguing with yourself, and then the person who was trying to settle the argument between the two of you.
And you were Angelina in that.
Yeah, and one time, this is literally true, on Inner Sanctum, I used to count on that to pay my rent. That was the show that paid my rent, and I was on it every week. And one week the call didn't come. And I called my telephone exchange and said, "Where's the call for Inner Sanctum?" And they said, "We didn't get it." And I scolded them for being so lax. And I called the producer and said, "Hi, I didn't get a call for Inner Sanctum." And he said, "No, you're not going to get one." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "There aren't any women." And I said, "That's no excuse. I've got to have that to pay my rent." So he said, "Well, can you play an elevator man?" And I said, "Sure." So I played that. It was okay. I paid my rent. I played some fella, an elevator man. I don't care.
You don't have too many good words for television, but what about radio today when you turn it on and hear what you hear?
It makes me very sad. Very sad.
I understand that you are also in some radio drama that's being produced new in the States now.
The CBS Mystery Playhouse, which is on every night of the week for an hour. I've done a lot of those, and I enjoy them very much. And they're by the being produced by the man who did Inner Sanctum. And all of my friends come back and do them for, I believe the judge who preceded me, Agnes Moorehead, or 2 years ago anyhow, we all go back and do them. It's, again, old school.
You, of course, have also done quite a bit besides radio, including an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress in All the King's Men, and quite a few other films, and I wonder what you think about any of the other media, such as stage, you've done film and so forth.
Yes, I love the theater. That's where most of my work is. I really love it. Films, fine. I like the ones I've done. I've never done very many films, but I've had excellent luck in them with a couple of nominations and an award. I'm very pleased with that. I just finished my work in Orson Welles' new picture, The Other Side of the Wind, and I have a play for this fall. My life is very full with opportunities.
If we could talk about something a little more recent that you have done and for which you have become very well known, and that is the voice dubbing in The Exorcist.
I didn't do any voice dubbing in The Exorcist. I played the demon in The Exorcist, and there is a very definite distinction.
All right, I am properly...
So there.
I am properly contrite and properly exorcised.
No, to
perhaps?
say that I did the voice dubbing sounds like I parroted to someone's lip movements, and that's all I did. Listen to the soundtrack in The Exorcist, which incidentally was one of the 2 Academy Awards for The Exorcist, despite all of its nominations. The sound won. The other was original screenplay. What was that? That was not the dubbing of a voice. I was not the voice of anybody.
It
I
was a
the
part.
demon.
Then did you prepare for it as you would prepare for
Very assiduously and as diligently as I have ever done anything. More so. It was a lot of very, very hard work, and I'll be darned if I won't insist that it was my work. How kind of a fool would I be if I didn't?
How did you prepare for that?
Lengthily. I wrote a character for the demon. I still have it. It actually would make an interesting piece of, I suppose, an essay, maybe one day if I really worked on it. And I wrote a musical score for the noises of the demon, for the breathing, for the anger, for the the sustaining long noises for everything that was there.
Let's listen to a part of another drama, and we're going to play a little bit of it and then come back and talk about it and then hear the rest of this, because it's a little more of a drama, and it's only about 2 characters in it, and you're one of the characters.
February 1st, St. Petersburg, Florida. I, Sophronia Winters, have hereby begun this diary because on this date I feel for the first time in my 60 years that I have begun to live. It happened this morning. I had just settled myself on the beach when I noticed a man, a thrilling-looking man, strolling toward me.
Well, sitting out here all by your lonesome?
Oh, well, yes, I am.
Didn't I see you last night over at the Starfish Tea Room?
The Starfish Tea Room? Oh, yes, I was there yesterday.
It's a mighty good table over there. Mind if I sit down beside you?
Not at all. Oh, just a minute. Sit on this magazine. This sand sticks to your clothes.
Oh, sand don't bother me. Johnson's the name, Hiram Johnson. Come from Green Harbor, Maine. Run a big hotel up there summers. That's my whole history in a nutshell.
My name is Sophronia. Sophronia Winters.
Sophronia?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's quite a coincidence. My sister-in-law's name was Sophronia. Sophronia Johnson. You ever heard of her? She looked quite a bit like you.
Sophronia Johnson? No, I'm afraid I haven't. Who was she? Someone very famous? I'm so ignorant about these things.
No, Sophronia wasn't very famous up in the state of Maine for a while, some time back. Well, look where that sun climbed to. I'd say it was close to lunchtime, and I'm going on a hunger strike unless you have lunch with me.
Oh.
Eh?
Dear diary, now I know what they mean by the young in heart. There is indeed a boy for every girl in the world, and I have found mine. He is so kind and so generous and so strong, and I...
Oh, what's the good of waiting, Sophronia? I got to be back at the hotel in a week. We may never see each other again.
Oh, Hiram, don't say that. I couldn't bear it.
Then let's do it right away, tomorrow. There's a parson out on Coral Avenue who'll do the job for us, and we can take a nice moonlight drive out the Alligator Farm afterwards and have a nice shore dinner. Then climb on board the Orange Blossom tomorrow night for Maine.
Oh, but what would your family think? Wouldn't they be shocked?
Family's all dead. I'm my own boss. There'll just be the 2 of us, alone together.
The 2 of us, alone together. The 2 of us alone together. But, dear diary, not exactly as I had imagined it. Our wedding trip north on the Orange Blossom Express was all that I could have dreamed of. But now we are at the end of the journey. Looming in front of us in the deepening winter twilight is a huge resort hotel, Hiram's Hotel, its wide veranda empty, its ancient cupolas menacing against the gray sky, and not a single light burning at any of its hundreds of windows. What are you locking the gate for, Hiram?
Why not? Nobody coming in after us, or going out again for a while.
But I thought you said the hotel.
The hotel is empty.
Hiram.
Well, what is it now?
Hiram, darling, I know it sounds silly, but let's not go in there tonight. It's so dark and empty. Let's wait until morning. Let's stay in the village just for tonight.
We're staying here. Now, get inside.
Oh, my arm. Hiram.
You remember me telling you down in Florida about my sister-in-law, Sophronia?
Yes.
Well, that's her. That painting there on the wall. Now, you take a look at her. Good look.
But why?
She was a murderess.
Oh.
She was hanged in Portland 25 years ago for the murder of my brother, Ephraim. Here in the lobby of this hotel. You come downstairs singing a hymn and murdered him in cold blood with an axe. That fire axe hanging over there on the wall.
Oh, horrible.
Yeah. Now you stand over there under that painting.
Hiram,
Get over there.
Hiram, please, you're hurting me.
Now, you stand there quietly. Now, you remember I said you resembled my dead sister-in-law? Well, you do. You are a spitting image.
In a moment, we continue with the second act of Suspense.
Now, that's from Suspense. It's called The Diary of Sophronia Winter, and we will get back to it in a little bit. Our guest is Mercedes McCambridge, who is the female voice in it. And it's amazing, the first excerpt that we heard, that thing from I Love a Mystery, was circa 1951, and this is only a few years later, and yet your voice, you have dramatically changed it, which is always amazing to someone like me who is not a radio dramatic actor. It's possible to do that. How do you do it anyway?
Well, I never have thought in those terms, actually. I think that would be a barrier that I would find almost insurmountable. I told the actors in the Air Force in these plays that we're seeing, so many of them have said afterwards, well, what do you do with your hands? I mean, how do I walk as this character? And what do I do with my body? If I thought that way, or what do I do with my voice, I don't think I could do it. Much more important to think, what is this lady? Who is this Sophronia person? What is her body? You know, how much does she weigh approximately? What is her head like? What does she look like? If you photographed her, what would you see? Given where she came from, I don't remember, but she obviously would be a stranger going to Maine. She would sound like a Maine woman in the parts where she's narrating the older things, but when she goes back to telling whatever this is about how they got on some express thing and went there, then her voice would be different because she would be coming from another region. What does somebody coming from one part of the country sound like? And what does the person sound like after they have lived in Maine and picked up that jargon for a while? That seems to me to be the only way for an actor to approach it. There's a marvelous line in Come Blow Your Horn when an actor says, if I can think it, I can be it. And that's what it is. It isn't to be it and then think it. It's first to think it, and then it automatically happens.
And yet your background is academic. That is, you have a degree in drama, and one thinks sometimes of going to college to learn to be an actor is sort of the type of a background in which instead you pick up this business of how do I walk, how do I...
No, there is that, and yet I was a major in drama and a scholarship student in drama. However, the courses that I took in sociology or basic French or history, those courses are as important to me in my work as anything that I ever learned in the strictly dramatic department, because I can relate a lot of things then from other things that I've learned into the parts I play. I think probably higher education's greatest value is that it opens the mind to anything and everything. It's a sponge in there.
You are here in Europe doing some play judging. It's for something called the USAFE Performing Arts Contest. And what does that consist of? What do you have to do as a judge in these things?
Well, if you can survive the hops on airplanes and various journeys on autobahns and things like that, and long waits in airports, what we do, actually, our function is fascinating, I think, and I'm enjoying it enormously. We go from base to base to witness a play that has been put on by the personnel. It's representative of a lot of imagination, a lot of hard work. And when the play is finished, the cast gathers around and the crew, and there is a critique from us, the judges, and we all learn something. I come down pretty hard on them. I wouldn't if I didn't think that they had possibilities, if I thought they were merely dreadful. And some of it is dreadful. Some of the performances you would expect to be dreadful. You don't take actors into a surgical theater in a hospital and say, go ahead and perform a brain operation. No more than you would take airmen into a theater and say, go ahead and be Lord Olivier. So, But even bearing that in mind, there are some remarkable things that we have seen, and I'm sure that we will for the rest of the tour. Then when the tour is finished in Zaragoza, we will sit with our pamphlets, which are our notes on the performances we have seen, and with the various casts of characters we have seen, and we will judge the best play, the best direction, the best makeup, the best lighting, the best choice of material, the best actor and actress, the best supporting actor and actress. And as a result of that, there will be then the final, the winner will be brought to headquarters, and there's a whole big festival, and everybody gets awards.
You are also a member of the advisory council on the for the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
What role do you play in that?
It sounds like all I say is I work very hard. I guess I do. I am concerned that there is an epidemic in the armed forces, as in every other branch of society, involving now almost as many women as men, with the largest single killer of the American youth, which is my disease of alcoholism. I'm an alcoholic, a recovered alcoholic, and have been for many years. And as important, I suppose, as the judging of the plays, which is paramount in my being here, are the visits I make to the facilities in the hospitals on these bases and connected with these bases. In front of my mind's eye now is a face of a boy I met this morning whom I will never forget. I know that as surely as I sit here. This boy he's very young, and he is Eugene O'Neill as a young man, terribly sick, not far from here. His mother died 9 years ago today, and it seemed very strange to see this young man down on his haunches this morning, looking up at me and telling me about the things he wanted to write. And his poor young body, a virile young body, now demonically possessed with nervous tremors and twitchings, and it's an extremely touching situation. Women wandering the halls, dependent wives, one young girl, very attractive, who says that she's convinced that if she dies, a lot of people would be better off. These are your people.
What can you tell people like that?
If you believe that alcohol is causing you a problem, and you know if it is, despite your protestations in public about how well you can handle it, if in the real buried temple of yourself you know it's causing you a problem, there is help. You have the most treatable disease there is. Don't die. Forgive yourself. Let yourself up. You're not bad. You're ill. You have as legitimate a disease as diabetes. Nicholas Pace, who is the medical director of General Motors, says it for me. He's the doctor who says, when we consider that alcoholism is as legitimate a disease as diabetes, the continuing moral stigma attached to the problem drinker is not merely stupid, it is nearly criminal, unquote. So if you're drinking too much, don't die because of the ignorance or bigotry of society. They'll go on being bigoted, but you'll be dead. Don't do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our guest, Mercedes McCambridge, and we have left our listener hanging with the suspense thing, which we need to get back to. So let's see how it finishes up. I think it's a little gory.
Oh, dear.
And now, starring Mercedes McCambridge, Act 2 of The Diary of Sophronia Winters.
I cannot understand it, and my heart is heavy. The hotel is deserted, unchanged and apparently uninhabited for 25 years. Wash bowls and pitchers still stand in the empty rooms covered with cobwebs. The great dining room with its oak woodwork is alive with rats, and a row of broken rocking chairs on the front porch faces emptily out to sea. Does he mean this to be my home?
And now, my dear, let me show you the grounds.
Oh, but it's dark.
I want to show you where my sister-in-law Sophronia is buried.
But can't I see it tomorrow in the daylight?
You'll see it now, Sophronia.
Hiram, you're hurting me.
I'm sorry, my dear, but you must learn to do what I say. And then we shall have no trouble. There we are. Just yonder on that mound. That's where my sister-in-law Sophronia was laid away 25 years ago. Buried her ourselves, out of service. Out here by herself on the grounds. Ephraim's buried in town, but not Sophronia. I had a feeling I'd have to keep an eye on her.
Keep an eye on her?
Yeah. I knew she was one of those restless sleepers who wouldn't stay quiet in a grave.
You mean you think she haunts this place?
Nope, not this place. She never had any use for it, live or dead. No, she makes for the warmer climates. She was always a cold-blooded little woman, freezing and shivering all the time. Places like California and Texas and Florida she makes for.
Florida?
Yeah. One of her favorite haunts, particularly around St. Petersburg. She likes the flowers and the sun and the romance.
Hiram, I feel cold. I'm shivering. Do you mind if I go inside now?
In a minute. Haven't explained everything. You see those birches over there? Under every one of them's a grave. See, I found her wandering the earth in disguise 3 times.